Today we continue on with our NHL offseason plan series. Today we're looking at the 16th ranked team from the regular season, the New Jersey Devils. The Devils had a big improvement from the year before, but certainly faced some disappointments and some key serious injuries along the way as well. Today we're going to look at the expectations for the New Jersey into this offseason. What will they do with the draft, free agency, trades to make this team better for next year? We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're looking at the New Jersey Devils and their expectations for what they'll do this offseason or their offseason plan to get better for next year. In case you're new to this series, essentially every team in the NHL gets its own dedicated video looking at what their plans and expectations are for the offseason. We started at the very bottom of the league, worked our way up from Team 32 all the way up to Team 16. So we'll be halfway through the league here, of course, here with this video. So essentially just going by the standings, that's how we do it every year, just to kind of go through from the bottom to the top. So New Jersey, a team that improved a lot year over year, fell a little bit short at meeting its goals, largely due to injuries and other factors that were maybe a little bit beyond their control. So we're going to discuss the 24-25 campaign, take a look at how they did as a team, look at some key individual stats. Then we're going to get into their off-season expectations. We'll look at their internal business, RFAs, UFAs, what do they have for cap space, what's their draft situation like, free agency, what trades could we expect, and we'll discuss all that and what we think they're going to do. So let's start first by recapping the 24-25 season for the Devils. They finished with a record of 42-33-7 for 91 points. Of course, they claimed a third spot in the Metro Division. For a big part of the season, it was pretty clear that the three teams were kind of separated for the most part, with Washington, Carolina, and New Jersey. They didn't really have to fight too hard to get that spot. It's not like they were right down to the wire like some teams like Montreal or into the wild card situations. New Jersey kind of had a pretty good grip on that spot, but it was starting to tighten up near the end for sure. 91 points was certainly good enough to get into the playoffs in the Metro Division, but in other spots like the Atlantic, they would have had a tougher time. Obviously, teams like Ottawa and Montreal right there doing just as good or better. So completely different set of results from the Atlantic to the Metro this year. The New Jersey Devils scored 240 goals this year, which was 20th best in the NHL. It's a slight bump up from last year. They scored 237. They gave up 220 goals against, which was a big improvement. That's fifth best in the NHL. Last year, they gave up 300 again. So we knew last year goaltending was a major issue, and of course they went out and resolved that with the acquisition of Jacob Markstrom, and of course bringing in Jake Allen last deadline here as well. So certainly the veteran goaltenders got the job done, and they drastically cut it down the goals against. That's an 80 goal improvement, and then of course they scored 3 more, so that's an 83 plus minus change. That's significant year over year, no doubt. The power play was one of the best in the NHL at 28.2%, and the penalty kill was one of the best too at 82.7 for second best. So their special teams, power play and penalty kill, number 2 and number 3. You can't get much better than that. Goaltending was pretty solid. The main area is this team needs to be able to score more, and they were hampered by injuries this year, especially with the loss of Jack Hughes, who missed significant time. That certainly played a big part of here. Obviously, they, like I said, made the playoffs, lost in the first round to the Carolina Hurricanes, who just lost themselves in the conference final to the Florida Panthers. But the Hurricanes came out of the Metro as the top playoff team in that sense, defeating New Jersey and Washington. Looking at the goaltending numbers, Jacob Markstrom had a really solid year, but not really. I wouldn't say it was phenomenal, but he got the job done. There's 26-16-6 record, a 2.5 goals against average, and a 900 save percentage. So you definitely want to see a little better than 900, but like I said, compared to what it was before with the goalies last year, drastic improvement. Jake Allen played fewer games than Markstrom, of course, but had a record of 13-16-1, a 2.66 goals against, and a 908 save percentage. So didn't get as many wins. It seemed like the team gave Markstrom a little bit more run support, but Jake actually had a slightly better save percentage. So there was a stretch too as well when Markstrom was out, when Allen had to kind of pick up the workload there a little bit as well. Looking at the individual stats, Jesper Bratt led the way with 88 points. Jack Hughes, even though he was out for a good period of time with a shoulder injury, had 70 points. Nico Hischier had 69. Timo Meier at 53. To be honest, I think you need more out of Timo Meier. Obviously, they signed him to a big contract after acquiring him from San Jose, and it's not like it hasn't been a complete waste or a complete bust, but I still think for what he is expected to do and what he's getting paid, I still think there's more there that they need to try to bring out of him. Of course, it was the first year for Sheldon Keefe as the head coach. Had a pretty good season. Like I said, made the playoffs after the team had missed the year before. They losing around one to Carolina. All in all, without their star player, Jack Hughes. I think it's fair to say it was a good season, not maybe a great season. And at the same time, it kind of feels a little bit disappointing. I think going into the year, a lot of people, myself included, were just maybe expecting just a little bit more out of this team. I thought maybe they could have done a little bit better in the regular season and maybe had a chance to win around in the playoffs. But like I said, a big part of that was the injury to Jack Hughes. So we'll see how that plays a role in the future. But for right now, we're hoping he can be healthy and have a full 82-game schedule next year. Looking at their cap space going into the offseason, they have $12 million available, which means they have $83.5 million basically tied up in other contracts. They have 19 out of 23 roster spots basically spoken for, but obviously some of those players are eligible that could be sent down to the minors or put on waivers. So there's certainly some flexibility there, but looking at what they have available, it's going to be tough to really add to this team without subtracting. Now, looking at their expiring contracts will help explain that a little bit more. On the RFA side, you got Luke Hughes, Cody Glass, and Nolan Foote. On the UFA side, you got Jake Allen, Tomas Tatar, Justin Dowling, Curtis Lazar, Daniel Sprong, Nathan Bastian, and Brian Dumoulin. Now, on the RFA side, Luke Hughes is likely getting, definitely getting signed, preferably a longer-term contract. That's going to be a bigger money deal. I think he's earned that. So, I'm not sure what Hughes is going to be paid, but it's going to take a big chunk of that $12 million. And then I'm not sure about Glass. He may be back, maybe not. Foote probably gets a contract. On the UFA side, I'm not sure any of those guys return, to be honest. My understanding of the Jake Allen goaltending situation is that he's not expecting to return to New Jersey, that it's most likely going to be a different tandem next year with Markstrom and one of their younger goalies, probably Nico Dawes. For example, Tomas Tatar, we know, is not returning. He just signed a multi-year contract to play in Switzerland, so he's gone for sure. And I know that they definitely want to remake their bottom six to some degree. So guys like Lazar, Dowling, Bastian, probably not returning. Dumoulin was a pickup for a rental. He won't be back. Sprong won't be back. I give maybe Bastian, if any of them, might have a shot, maybe getting a contract. Looking at contract extensions that are players that are eligible, you have Nemec, Haula, and Cotter. I think they really liked Cotter when they picked him up. Of course, it was his first year with the Devils. I can see maybe something getting worked out there, but I don't expect an extension for Eric Haula. I would suspect that the goal for the young defenseman Nemec, that he probably would, himself at least, probably would prefer to wait to see if he can maybe have a better season and get more games in and kind of up his value before doing his next deal. But that's I'm not sure how the team feels, but I would think it's fair to say that's probably what he's thinking right now. So what are the top questions facing this franchise? What are the expectations on what we're going to see for change? Well, like I mentioned, goaltending is a big one. Drastically improved this year. Can they sustain that? Well, the hope is that you get another solid year out of Jacob Markstrom. Like I said, it's not expected right now that Jake Allen return. They're probably going with one of their younger goalies, like Dawes, for example, as the backup next year. At least that's the understanding I've had from the intel on around this team. So I suspect that's probably what's going to happen. But I guess there's always a possibility something changes with that, but that's pretty much a sure thing. I mean, realistically, you have to hope that whoever's taking Jake Allen's spot can give them at least a similar save percentage as he did this year. And if they can do that, then they should be able to be, at least it's not going to be a weak point of the roster. So goaltending, that's what we're expecting there. I suspect we're going to see a possibility of obviously some players moved off this roster. I think that if they were able to, GM Tom Fitzgerald would probably love to move on from Andre Palat. That contract's not working out. He was brought in from the Lightning as a player with a lot of experience in cup pedigree and all the things he learned in Tampa, but it really hasn't worked out in Jersey for him. So I'm not sure they're going to be able to, but I know that I fully suspect they're going to try. So Palat's a name to watch for that. I do wonder if they're going to maybe end up moving at least one defenseman. Looking at their back end, of course, they brought in a lot of new guys last year, like Brett Pesce, Brendan Dillon, for example. Kovacevic was brought in not long before that too, and just signed an extension. Of course, you get Siegenthaler, Dougie Hamilton, Luke Hughes needs a new deal. You still got Seamus Casey and Simon Nemec who, are looking for more and more playing time. And with these young guys ready to step up, that leaves a lot of D. So, for example, I wonder if either a possibility that they try to move Dougie Hamilton, but he does have trade protection. He would have to work with them. But Hamilton's value is certainly quite high. I mean, if you look at, I guess the reason I suggested Hamilton is at some point, they're going to have to be like, okay, like we like this guy, but he's always getting hurt. He's had too many injuries. With the expected long-term contract coming for Luke Hughes, you got Hughes, Pesce, Dillon, Siegenthaler, Kovacevic. Is Hamilton the odd man out? I know, or even though they signed him, could they trade Kovacevic? Like more than likely, somebody on that blue line, and it's probably going to be somebody with some contract term, likely gets moved to give themselves a little bit more cap flexibility and to give some of these younger defensemen more of an opportunity. So not sure exactly what they do in that regard, but I do expect a change there on the blue line. Another big question is, can Jack Hughes stay healthy? Obviously, we knew when he was drafted that he's not a big guy. He's a little bit on the thinner side. Doesn't have a big, thick frame or anything. So, is his injuries, taking its toll on him? Is this something that can be addressed somehow? Obviously, keeping him healthy and avoiding these injuries will be absolutely paramount to the team having success. When he's their most offensive player and putting up the most points, typically at least, when he's not there, that's a major blow to this team, and it really cuts in to the team's depth at center too. So I suspect that they're going to do everything they can to help Hughes heal up this offseason and be ready for next year, but it's just a big question moving forward. I know it's not really something that's easy to answer. It's not a black and white yes or no, but obviously Jack Hughes' health moving forward is a big question mark for this team, not only for this year, but year after year. Going into the draft, a 2025 draft, they don't have a first-round pick. That's already been traded. They do have 6 picks total in the draft, including a second-rounder. I'm not sure if they're going to be real anxious to get back into the first round of this draft or not. Wouldn't be a complete shocker. Besides a guy like Palat or a defenseman, another name I do wonder about the future is Dawson Mercer. Is he a center? Is he a winger? Where do they see him? He's not signed long-term, so I wonder what the future holds there. I do wonder if he could be a potential trade piece. So we'll see about that. Obviously he's another guy to kind of keep an eye on. He's a guy who would have more value. I know they're not really probably that interested in having a first round pick. They'd probably rather have a player that's going to be impactful now. So, if they do trade into these pieces, I don't know that you're going to be looking to get into the first round of the draft. I think you're probably more looking for another asset that can be of assistance to your team immediately. So, there's always that. Eric Howlett's another name to kind of watch as well. Final year at $3.1 million, I believe that's a contract they'd like to move. So between Palat, Howlett, at least one defenseman to make room for one of these younger guys like Casey or Nemec to have more of a role with the team would probably be helpful. Like I said, I think they're going to address goaltending internally. And that's really without going outside the organization and doing much. If they can with their available cap space. I know that Sheldon Keefe wasn't real thrilled with how the bottom 6 worked. Lazar is probably not coming back. So 1 or 2 depth pieces that can maybe be your bottom 6 guys that can maybe contribute in special teams, penalty killers, that type of thing, responsible defensively. Those types of guys are players that they're probably going to be looking for, whether it be either smaller trades or into free agency. So I do suspect we're going to see something like that as well. But really, in all honesty, the Devils are missing a few pieces to be a real threat to be a cup contender. And how are they going to go about getting that is the real question here. I mean, they're pretty set down the middle at the top with Hughes and Heischer. They've got some good scoring wingers, but it's really where does everybody slot? The blue line looks pretty good too. The goaltending, in all honesty, if they need to find a way to maybe just to kind of rejig the forward group a little bit to add some more offense to the mix. I do wonder if they'll be in the mix for some of the free agents out there, assuming they make it to free agency, like Nick Ehlers or Brock Besser. I don't necessarily see them going big game hunting like a Mitch Marner. You never know, but really, they don't have the money for it, so they'd have to trade out a significant salary to make that happen. I'm not really sure that we see something like that either. So all in all, I think we're going to see a Luke Hughes extension. We're probably going to see a lot of other internal movement, with the possibility of moving out some of these, a few veterans and maybe a few tweaks. But as far as a significant move, it's going to be challenging to do unless they find a contract or two to shed to give them some more salary cap flexibility. So if they can move a guy like Palat or Howla, that might go a long way to helping them find the missing pieces here to be a stronger contender for next year. So let me know your thoughts on the Devils and your expectations for the offseason in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.